Today, I'm going to dive into one of the most astonishing discoveries in the history of archaeology, and this would be the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Now, his reign was short, his life was brief, but his afterlife was legendary. And this is because of his burial, which was sealed in darkness for over 3,000 years. And this burial became the single greatest time capsule of ancient Egypt and all time. Now, let's start with the boy behind the legend. So, this would be King Tut himself, who rose to power in about 1332 BC. When he was just a child, actually. He was barely 9 years old. He inherited an Egypt that was shaken by radical religious change by his father, Akhenaten. And his father really had turned the kingdom upside down, by forcing the worship of a single god when that was completely against everything that they had believed beforehand. But when Tut became king, his advisors guided him, in restoring the traditional gods, rebuilding abandoned temples, and breathing life back into a country desperate for normalcy. But Tut never reached adulthood. His rule only lasted about 10 years before his life was cut short at around 19. And because of that sudden death, the preparation for his burial was very rushed. And the moment of urgency ended up preserving a miracle, actually. Now let's jump to 1922, and archaeologist Howard Carter had spent years searching for King Tut's tomb, with almost nothing to show for it, in fact. But, his funding was dwindling, enthusiasm was fading, and pressure was growing. So he was kind of not doing so good, but Carter refused to give up. Then one afternoon, deep in the Valley of Kings, his team uncovered something small, but extraordinary. And this was a single carved step leading down into the earth. Now, this step led to more steps and eventually to a sealed doorway stamped with King Tut's royal insignia. And this was something that the world had not seen in centuries. A pharaoh's tomb untouched by time or looters. So when Carter peered inside for the first time, just holding a flickering candle, he saw what he says wonderful things. A room crammed with treasures that had not seen the light of day since, ancient world. And more than 5,000 objects were packed inside. So every item meant to guide a king to eternity was untouched. And the tomb had 4 rooms, each revealing another layer of the story. So the first room was the antechamber. Carter entered that one, and it looked like the frozen moment of a royal life. Chariots stood side by side, gilded couches shaped like divine creatures, and carved chests filled with clothing, jewelry. Everything was rich in detail, gold, ebony, ivory, yet arranged in a chaotic rush, so to speak. That said everything about the speed of the burial. And the annex was even tighter, a cramped storage space overflowing with oils, baskets, wine jars, weapons, hundreds of tiny statues. Objects were packed on top of each other, showing that just how quickly the burial preparation must have taken place. Now, then came the treasury room, and this was a deep spiritual room. So in the center stood a canopic shrine containing Tut's preserved organs, and inside miniature gold coffins, and a large statue of Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, watched over everything in the room. This space wasn't necessarily about wealth. It was more about the protection, guidance, and preparation for Tut for his journey into the afterlife. And finally, Carter, after researching this room, he reached the burial chamber, and this was the heart of the tomb. And here, King Tut's mummy lay inside a series of nested shrines. 4 enormous gold-covered boxes, each one fitting inside the next. And inside the last shrine was a stone sarcophagus. Inside that were 3 coffins, and each more elaborate than the one before. And within the final coffin, Carter uncovered one of the most iconic artifacts on Earth, and this would be the golden mask of King Tutankhamun. So for decades, people questioned whether parts of the mask, might have been repurposed from other royals, because of the rush burial, but modern science have analyzed the gold composition and the welding techniques and the pigment layers, showing that the mask indeed was created all at the same time and crafted specifically for King Tut himself. It wasn't recycled, it wasn't borrowed, it was made for him, just by rushed artists. So they only had like about 70 days, I believe. It was very rushed. The mask, weighing more than 20 pounds of solid gold, is breathtaking, really. Its smooth, idealized face shows Tut as an eternal, divine ruler. The inlaid stones has the cobra and the vulture on the crown, which symbolizes um, uh, High and Lower Egypt, per se. And it's just a beautiful piece of craftsmanship. It's a masterpiece. It was made under intense pressure, yet still one of the greatest works of humanity ever produced. But the irony in all this is that King Tut's tomb is incredibly small for a pharaoh. The size may be exactly what saved it, though. Larger tombs were looted repeatedly over thousands of years, and Tut's, tucked away beneath rubble from later construction, simply vanished from memory. And because of that, it remains sealed for more than 30 centuries. And inside, every object tells a story about, ancient craftsmanship, royal life, religious belief, and Egyptians' obsession with the afterlife. The treasures speak louder than any written record, and they reveal a world where death wasn't the end, but the beginning of a journey that required preparation, protection, and unimaginable richness. Today, King Tut is known worldwide, not for his achievements during life, but because of his tomb's survival, and just with everything inside of it. Scientists still scan the walls, study the artifacts, and analyze his mummy. New theories rise and fall, but one fact remains is that King Tut's tomb is the most complete snapshot of ancient Egyptian royal life that we've ever uncovered. And that's why it fascinates us. It's not just a burial, it's a doorway into a world that's vanished, really, and a world preserved in gold, ritual, and belief. So King Tut is a miracle of history, and one just that continues revealing its secrets piece by piece, even to this day.